Welcome back to the Big Geek Podcast. I'm your host, Ron Avis, and sitting with me on the couch, as usual, to my left is my co-host,
Nick Wright.
And today we're going to be talking about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Heroes in a half shell, turtle power.
Cowabunga, dude.
Cowabunga, Nick. All right, so here we are. You guys might notice right away that things are a little bit different, appearance-wise, on the BitGeek set. First of all, we've got these microphones now.
Stuck to our face.
Yeah, and for most people, I think this is an improvement. For me personally, like they don't have to see my face nearly as much.
Well, and for the audio listener, huge improvement. I would hope so.
Yeah, the audio listener is going to get a big upgrade. Previously we had I've got this wide angle lens now that I'm trying out, and I've been working a lot on the aesthetic of the BitGeek background. So we got the new photos here, and I brought in these bookshelves, and I put a lot of my childhood toys that I've collected over the years that had been sitting in boxes for 30 years.
They're in the shot too.
Yeah, they're in the shot too.
So you've got your Ron's Mini Museum.
Yeah, this isn't the Nick's Arcade Museum by any stretch of the imagination, but like I say, some of these toys haven't breathed in 30 years. So I thought, why not? Add a bit more personality to the video people. They can see and enjoy all of these little touches, little bits of flair that I've added. And in the process, since we've done that, we've expanded out. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why I've gone to this look, because we have Martin that comes in, and when you have three guests on one microphone, on a boom microphone, like shotgun mic style.
Yeah, it's not always the best.
Nah, it's a little faint, doesn't sound real good. So I'm shoehorned into this tight frame with the microphone just hanging above our heads, right here, just out of frame. And it doesn't even sound good. The person in the middle might sound pretty decent, but you and I on the outside, we sound further out. But so that this will sound a little bit better. I think it'll be a big improvement, especially for the audio listeners, and it'll be an improvement for video people too. So right off the bat, hope you guys are enjoying the new digs, the new look. Also, we're doing a 4K video, which I don't think anybody watching on YouTube is gonna get the full benefit of that.
Right.
But it will it'll downsample, it'll look better, anytime you excuse me, you have an image with more pixels and you shrink it down, it looks sharper, nicer. Mm-hmm. So I'm anticipating a bit of improvement in video quality too. But the biggest reason was that whole rigmarole we had to go through when we were recording videos of having to stop right around 30 minutes, and I'd have to spend all this time cutting the videos together. That won't have to be an issue for me anymore. So I'm mostly excited for that. You're not the timekeeper.
Right, yeah, I don't know if the viewer ever really noticed, but yeah, I'd have my phone sitting on my lap, and it would start buzzing.
Yeah.
Have the alarm go
and then
off,
we would be we'd have to pretty much break.
Oh, let's remember where we were.
Yeah.
What were we talking about right then, and try to recreate that situation.
Yeah, so that it's not jarring for the listener,
Right.
You're you found yourself repeating a thought you had originally, and you're like, I gotta bring it the same level of excitement that I had that first time.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping with this new setup things will be a little bit smoother for us, producing wise. Mm-hmm. Which I didn't mind doing it before, but you do get kind of sick of it. And we had the reason that the part 2 episode of the arcade, the top 20, was delayed is because as part of that process where we knew we'd have to stop recording and then restart again, I guess I just didn't hit record. I do this little dance on my computer. The timer would go off. You'd be like, okay, we got to stop. I would stop, restart immediately. You'd restart the timer, and we would do that about 8 times during the course of that recording. And one of those times, I guess it just didn't record. So there was, 10 through 8 didn't record, so we have to re-record that and then edit it back together. Then we'll have that 10 well, you'll have seen it by now, but
Yeah,
that's why it was delayed.
hopefully that'll already be out in the wild before this episode is released.
Yeah, and it's we have to get Martin, because there were 3 of us for that recording, so we have to make his schedule is busy, our schedules are maybe not as busy, but we're all busy.
Yeah. Well, and it's the holiday season.
So sorry everybody that December has been kind of a lean. In the end of November, I think we missed a week for around Thanksgiving time.
Yeah, you were like super concerned about missing a week, and it was actually because we usually release one on Thursdays.
Yeah.
And that Thursday was Thanksgiving.
I know.
And I was like, just tell them, there's not an episode for the holidays.
Our 10 listeners will understand. Yeah, well, I wanted to. It's important to me to be on a tight schedule. Like, we try to get new episodes out on Thursdays,
Which I totally agree with.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the holidays. And,
yeah. We'll be, we'll try and get back on track now that the holidays are almost here, and then things will get back to a more normal schedule.
Yeah.
So, okay, back now that that's over, we can get
Without
to the actual meat of the
ado.
episode. Without further ado, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles tribute episode. I love these tribute, style formats. It gives us an opportunity to just talk about we can single out one thing and then just kind of go over its history, and then also like add in like anecdotes of our own.
Yeah, and you really introduced me to the Ninja Turtles. You were a big turtle fan, and then I just kind of jumped on the bandwagon from there.
The Ninja Turtles were just, obviously they were a sensation for everybody. It wasn't just me, and I might have introduced you, but like Turtles, like they hit, and I guess it was 87, 88 when the cartoon. Yeah, 87.
Yeah, 87 was
87.
The cartoon.
There was that 5-part miniseries that hit, and oh my god, like I saw that first episode and I was just hooked from the jump. There was anything like it.
And what's interesting too, though, is you did introduce me to it, and we kind of took very different paths, I think, where you were more of like that 80s cartoon fan.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, yeah, this is cool. And we were getting the toys and stuff too. And like I got like my first toy was Raphael. And but so then I was like, I want to see where this started. And I started looking up the old comics.
How did you find out about that too? Because like it's not like there was the internet, and there was no mention of it in the cartoon series. Like, they're not like, by the way, check out the the graphic novel was very adult oriented.
Yeah, I honestly don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how I found out about it and went back to its roots.
We were in middle school when this phenomenon hit, weren't we?
Yeah, but yeah, and so by that time though, the old comics were collected in like the graphic novel, which I happen to bring with me here.
The old EASTMAN and LAIRD graphic novels.
Yeah, and so I kind of caught up on those. There were 4 books of those graphic novels that collected the early Ninja Turtle stories, and so I got caught up on all those that way. But yeah, like we said, I don't know how I found out really.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's interesting. I'd be curious to know, like, where you maybe. Well, you would go to comic book stores, right?
Yeah,
occasionally.
I did.
So maybe
and
that's where
so
you found out.
I would see it, I guess, because it was popular, and so I'd see, oh, hey, Ninja Turtles, huh? Yeah, oh, okay.
I imagine those were really hot books to find when the cartoon took shape,
and it was very interesting to see just the stark difference of like like wow, the
1984 the differences between the 1984 graphic novel and the 1987 cartoon, like right off the bat, violent, more adult themed for sure. That it was in black and white, right?
Yeah,
the first issue.
Yeah, but my graphic novel is colorized, but yeah, they were black and white. But oh yeah, and they're just this right here, in particular right here is like it's like the second page or something. It's like, who are these guys? Don't know, some kind of freaks, but even freaks can bleed.
Yeah.
Cut them. Yes, we can bleed, and so can you. And then it's just like a spray of blood.
Oh my god, it's awesome. Yeah, jeez, I can't even imagine. I mean, okay, let's go ahead and say too, like, we were probably a little too old for the Ninja Turtles at the time.
Yeah, we were middle school.
I say that, you're like, how old were you when you were turned on to Ninja Turtles? And you're like, you might have seen it would be elementary school or whatever.
It was 6th grade.
I always remember having that feeling like I should be ashamed that I'm.
But
like,
yeah, by the time we got
these
into
toys.
8th grade, we were still into them, and I kind of remember that.
Yeah,
it's like, we still play with the Ninja Turtle
we weren't.
toys.
We wouldn't bring them to school.
We're getting ready to go to high school next year. But I mean, we started in 6th grade.
Yeah, that's still age appropriate, I guess. I mean, it depends on who you are. Some kids get into, more mature things, I guess, faster than others. Like my son Logan, I could see him like being out of toys by the time he hits 8. He's just so mature, Whereas where I still go to toy stores, like I don't care.
Right.
I mean, I always loved toys. I still love toys because that's just who I am.
Yeah, I mean, and isn't it, we're not like
no, we're not playing with
put
them
them on
actually.
a shelf, we just appreciate.
Yeah. Just put them up in a little position, pose them, and then just forget about it. Really,
they look cool.
Yeah, they look cool,
like little miniature posable statues.
So yeah, 84. And let's talk about some of the other differences. Like they all they all had the same color.
Oh yeah, they all looked like Raphael. Basically, they were all red.
Yeah,
and so it was the 80s cartoon that kind of differentiated them with colors and writing a letter on their belt.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, and also the foot were people; they weren't robots, and
right.
The cartoon kind of turned them into robots for obviously, like.
But even in black and white, or just looking at them all with red bandanas, you could still tell who each one was, not just from their weapons, but like the their belts and whatever it'd be like a different design. You could still tell.
Cool. I confession, I still have never actually read those books.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna read for everyone. Chapter 1.
Story time.
Yeah, no, that's cool, man. Maybe like lend these to me and I could check them out and read through them.
Yeah, I'll leave them here.
That's nice of you. Cool. But yeah, the Ninja Turtles were huge. I don't even have in this podcast. It's not necessary to go over that. Everybody knows how popular they've remained popular. There's been a number of reboots in the show. Like where some of the things that we loved from childhood would go away for a long time, and then so many years later would kind of come back.
Yeah.
I don't think the Turtles ever went away.
I mean, there would be lulls, but not for very long. I mean, there'd always be like a new Ninja Turtle series. And recently on Netflix, I noticed that they had that one series that came out, like, I guess after the movies did.
Oh, the Saban style, or the Power Rangers style?
Yeah, that had like the female Ninja Turtle. Yeah, so I watched like the first episode, and the female one was basically like just in shadows, like for the first episode, wasn't really introduced yet. But I can't bring myself to watch anymore. It was terrible.
I remember when it came out, and I was firmly outside of the interest of the Turtles at that point.
Yeah, we kind of, by that time we were older, that it was like, okay, we still like Turtles and all, but it just like everything Turtles, we could tell, like, okay, that looks like garbage.
It looks like garbage, yeah. Not necessarily the highest production quality.
Right.
That's not Jim Henson, style. For what it was, I guess it was kind of impressive. Yeah, so it had to be expensive, I'm sure, but I just didn't care. There was actually a Turtles Power Rangers crossover, I think, too.
Yes, there was. I've seen videos.
And it must be when because Saban purchased it.
Now, I had no idea at the time. I didn't know about it at the time, but I've seen it since.
You want Rangers? You gotta go through Turtles.
Mutants!
Well, at least you got that right. It's time for some shell shock.
What are those things?
I can't believe it, but I think they're...
It's the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I really, really resisted the Power Rangers, and I think it might have been just due to my loyalty. It felt like the thing that was replacing Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
Very much so.
I saw it a few times. Like, I was in high school when it was big, and it was just, you turn on the TV and it's on, and so you're kind of just doing whatever, and it's on in the background.
I mean, it was Saved
But
by
I
the Bell with
never really-
ninjas. I mean, it should have been something I might have liked.
I never really got into it. I didn't really care.
Yeah, I'm with you there, 100%. And then there were spin-offs even of that.
I mean,
show.
I thought the Pink Ranger, was hot, but other than that,
Amy Johnson, I think is her name.
Yeah, Amy Jo.
Amy Jo.
Yeah.
Amy Johnson. Amy Jo, yeah.
Johnson, I think. Amy Jo Johnson.
Oh, is it Amy Jo
Yeah.
Johnson? Okay. So that I've heard that name so many times, it's stuck up in there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
But of course, everything got out of control for the Turtles in '87 when the syndication started, more or less. That show ran for 9 years from '87 to '96 with that particular cast. With you throw in some Saturday morning shows. They had the CBS hour-long block of Ninja Turtles. So you got them Monday through Friday, then you got them again on Saturday. And then you could probably find them again on Sunday, like on Cartoon Express or something, if you were looking. Right. So I mean, it was around the clock, Ninja Turtles everywhere, and we both loved everything. And I didn't get the graphic novels. Now there were comic books too, right? Straight comic book. Yeah, I know there were.
Well, I mean, yeah, it started out as the black and white comics, and then the graphic novel is just a collection of those comics. But then after the cartoon came out, there was also the Archie comics that was based off of the cartoon, had its own stories. Mm-hmm. But I didn't ever get any of those though.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I didn't.
I wonder if they were any good. Might have been okay.
I think it has its fans.
Mm-hmm.
I never really liked the art style. Comics for me, it has to grab me with the art first.
You're very much the art.
And
yeah. The writing is important, but if the art's not there,
it comes second place. Though,
yeah,
for me.
I'm with you. I'm very finicky too when it comes to my art. In fact, we were having a conversation upstairs before the show. We were just, totally unrelated to Turtles, but we were talking about the Rankin Bass and that style.
Yeah.
And then you were like, well, I think of them as the Hobbit cartoons. And I was like, oh, well, I always think of them as stop motion Christmas, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
And I didn't even realize really it was the same people.
But my point was I didn't like that Hobbit cartoon because I didn't like the art style at all.
Right.
And I think it's just a product of the 70s.
That 70s kind of trippy,
very trippy.
Yeah.
I don't know. It kind of frightened me as a kid.
Well, and there's something about the style too.
Everything was ugly.
Yeah, all the people are kind of wrinkly looking or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just not a very attractive time for cartoons. But yeah, as far as I'm like that too with cartoons now, IDW, certain IDW artists when they would bring out runs of familiar things that we loved as kids. I remember when they started doing Transformers comics and how beautiful certain artists were, and there'd be Ghostbusters and you name it, they would IDW would have a run of that. But back to what we were more familiar with, we loved the toys. You got the toys right here, Leonardo, Michelangelo, Donatello, Raphael. Everybody knows they're named after Renaissance painters or something. In fact, I think, which one was it? Donatello was going to be named something else, but it didn't end in an O. So they changed their mind. He was going to be another Renaissance guy.
Oh, yeah, I hadn't heard that. Just because it didn't end in an O?
Yeah, because it didn't end in an O.
Raphael doesn't end in an O.
Oh, well, it doesn't make sense at all. No, never mind. Well, I try to have my factoids, but that would be a stupid factoid. I'm pulling that one back. That's a retractoid right there.
Good point.
Yeah. And also, when I was reading about, Kevin and Laird, let's talk a bit more, too, about why the Turtles are a thing. They really kind of turned out to be a parody in many ways of
Oh
things
yeah,
that they love.
Yeah, and it has connections with Daredevil. There's your factoid right there.
Yeah, the hand instead of the foot. They, like there's that organization in the Daredevil comics of the hand, Stick and Splinter. Yep. So that's really kind of cool. And in fact, oh gosh, I don't have this written down, but I want to say that there's an actual canon connection between the canister that blinded Murdoch.
Yeah, they very much patterned how that whole origin story of the Turtles with the same event that blinded Daredevil.
Yeah, so like the canister that blinded, Daredevil was this, the ooze or whatever that mutated Splinter and the Turtles. So
yeah, they very purposefully recreated that scene, like from a different angle, basically.
Yeah, so those guys just became rich beyond their wildest imaginations. Just and those initial drawings were very, very different than what you see nowadays. They looked more like turtles.
Yeah, we'll have to pull one of those up.
Yeah, I'll have some some imagery of those original first drawings that they did. That that's worth a lot of money. I see those guys. One of them showed up on this show, Comic Book Men, that I like to watch. It's a Kevin Smith show.
Right.
And one of the guys had that in a briefcase, the original artwork of the Turtles, because apparently, one of the guys would draw something. He's like, "This is funny. Check this out." And then the other guy would kind of one up him and make it a little sillier and add a little something. And then the other guy would be like, "Oh, well, check this out." And or one guy would say, "Well, let's make them ninjas." Yeah, or not ninjas, but teenagers or something like that. Like it was this back and forth process that just sort of took shape. And I mean, you could very easily imagine a couple of friends coming to this. I mean, we all do it. We'll make it personal, make a joke, and then another person will one up that person. But their thing made millions of dollars.
Right.
Just turned into this
you never know.
thing. I know that apparently one of them is not a big fan of the cartoon series like they do.
Oh, no, yeah.
Yeah, they... In fact, let's see. Wolf... Is it Wolf or something like that? That was the original distributors of the show. They actually sued Eastman and Laird for part of their fortune, claiming that the reason that they're so popular was all of the decisions that they made. The things that, the original creators weren't so crazy about. The changing up the differences in the way they the different color masks and their personalities being kind of cartooned and goofied up. It's those decisions that, and I don't think they're wrong, that made them as popular as what they were. So I think they got a large sum of money from them, and they're all still crazy rich, every one of them. But it's odd too, because I don't know about you, but when I think of corporations and suits and boardrooms and meetings, they're messing things up by making these choices. But in this case, they kind of made it what it was.
Right, yeah.
And even though I do appreciate its origins, it's like you said, for me personally, it was that I ran with the 80s cartoon, that shtick. Pizza. Pizza was my everything,
Right.
Michelangelo's goofiness, that was very much who I identified with.
Right.
And the mutants were very silly. Shredder was kind of a goofball. Krang, that was a totally original concept, for the show, I believe.
Well, not so much. Not totally original. There were aliens that looked like Krang.
There was a Dimension X, though, right?
Neutrons, or I forget the name.
Neutrinos.
Exactly. Well, neutrinos are something different.
Oh, okay.
But there was an alien that Krang is based off of. There wasn't a character named Krang.
Yeah.
But there was definitely aliens that he was based off of. There was no Bebop and Rocksteady.
Mm-hmm.
That was definitely the 80s cartoon.
Yeah. And that was just very silly, and I loved all of that. And then we got, out of nowhere, this amazing movie in 1990.
Which, interestingly enough, I don't know how much you knew, but that first live-action movie, very, very closely patterned off of the first comic.
I've heard that. Since I had never read the comic, obviously, I couldn't sit and tell you where those parallels are. Yeah. But the Eastman and Laird, they were very involved with the first one. And apparently, again, they really don't like the second one.
And there's mixes of later comics also, but most of the movie is pretty much that first comic.
And I love that first one. Like when we did our superheroes episode, way back, I put TMNT on my, my favorite 5 or whatever, just because I really believe that stands out as a comic book movie.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, everything like Marvel is legit and great, and I love those movies a lot. And I'll admit that there's aspects of the '90s movie that feel kind of dated and cheesy, but those suits looked amazing. They looked great, and they were different than the cartoon. I love the voices. I even loved the, Donatello, Corey Feldman, who's supposed to be kind of like the Donatello is sort of supposed to be like the nerdy, shyish, kind of tech whiz. But they made, Corey Feldman of all people was the voice. Right. And if nowadays, and that would have been a casting decision that I would have absolutely hated as an adult. But as a kid, I knew who Corey Feldman was, but it didn't. Well, I'll tell you what, back up even further. Internet culture being the way it is today, I didn't even probably know that Corey Feldman was the voice.
Well, that's what I was gonna be ashamed to say, is I had no idea. I've heard since that, that's who it was. Wow, I didn't know that. But
it's very Corey Feldman.
I had no idea at the time.
Professor and Marianne, happily ever after.
No way, Atomic Mouth. Gilligan was her main man. They'd be married and have 6 kids by now.
Gilligan was a geek, Barfaroni.
You're the geek, Camel Breath.
Good dome head.
L flips.
I remember listening to him and just maybe, and there was no IMDb that I could hop on instantly and go, who's that voice? But it's a very distinct voice, and they didn't go with the voices from the cartoon, which is interesting. They had different people cast, and but I don't have a whole lot of facts on those actors and those voices, but they are different. Mm-hmm. Like the person who voices Michelangelo, I don't think it's the same actor that voiced Michelangelo in the cartoons.
No, I don't think so.
But they worked really well. I do know that the actor who voiced Splinter in the first 2 movies is the guy who voices Elmo.
What, really? Kevin Clash?
Yep. There's your factoid. Blow your mind.
That I did not know.
Yeah, very much the same guy. So yeah, that's really crazy. But yeah, back to that original movie. That was an event, dude. That was up there with 89 Batman. We were at that age. We were starting to go to movies and kind of being a thing.
Right.
And I want to say, we went to see the movie as friends, I don't remember who took us.
Well, your mom did.
Was it my mom?
Oh yeah, I remember. She
Okay.
dropped us off at the movie theater, and yeah, I remember.
Well, we went with your mom on the second one, didn't we? Because Ruth was with us. I remember. I want to say
really?
Your mom and Ruth were watching the Secret of the Ooze in the back of the theater.
You sure?
Yeah. Ruth, back me up on this.
I would have said your mom for that one too.
No, yeah, because I remember Ruth commenting about the whole I made a funny she thought that was cute, I guess, at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, but I believe you because my mom did drop us off, I guess, a lot going to the movies and we'd do our thing. She didn't sit with us.
Yeah, she took off.
Yeah, yeah. Was there anyone else with us at the time? Did we go see that with another group of friends?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, that movie was totally unexpected. I guess we saw commercials for it and kind of had an inkling of what it was going to be like. Mm-hmm. And even in magazines, maybe there was a picture.
The very first time I'd ever heard it was coming out was in Nintendo Power of all places, and I remember that there's a picture of it, and I'm thinking how is a Ninja Turtle live action movie? How is that even going to work? But it did.
It worked great. And Jim Henson and. So one of the last things that Jim Henson was alive for, he died of cancer very shortly after he died in between, I think, the first and the second movie.
Oh, wow. If I would have guessed, I would have thought he was already dead.
No, he was very much alive through the first movie, and I want to say he might have died like right around, like maybe when they were shooting the second movie, he passed away.
Yeah, because I remember just huge shocker when he did die, but yeah, I thought that already happened, really.
I was very sad to hear that his creature shop recently closed down, didn't it?
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah,
that.
I think they closed their doors like a year or two ago.
Oh, that's a shame.
It is. But, you know, they had the suits, the actors in the big suits, and then they would have several people, like, running the animatronics of the mouth. And apparently, like, it took, like, 3 or 4 people to animate Splinter.
You know, they do, like, these live-action movies of, like, cartoons and whatnot, like, all the time now. And you know, it's more like CG and whatnot now.
Yeah, they run around, they got the balls on them and stuff, you know,
Yeah.
for the motion capture.
But, you know, at that time, it was, like a shock. Like, what?
Well, what do we have?
Serious?
Howard the Duck at that point? I mean, that was one of the few instances. And it wasn't a little person. It was like, I mean, they were shorter, granted, but they, you know, they were actual martial artists in there who were actors. In fact, all of those actors had little cameos in the movie at one point.
Yeah.
I want to say, like, Raphael was in the cab, I think, in a cab. Or I don't know. I'm not going to say because then people will be mad if I get it wrong. But all of the turtles at one point. Well, I think the guy who was acting as Michelangelo was the pizza guy in the beginning when Mikey, like, he hands him over the pizza. I want to say maybe that was that actor. But anyways, yeah, they had bit cameos. But yeah, you know, and it was like 200 degrees in those costumes. You know, like you'd see like black and white photos from the set. You know, like. And apparently, like, the actor who was Raphael was very, very claustrophobic, so they would have to, you know, like, every scene, you know, he'd have to take the thing off.
Right.
You know, like, he couldn't act for very long, and then he would start panicking. So, yeah, nowadays, you're right. I mean, it would be CG a lot. You know, the actors themselves would be, you know, covered in suits. And then, you know, like they would put balls, like then they would just get Andy Serkis to do everything. You know, like that guy's like the master of motion cap performance acting, and he's awesome. I love that guy. But yeah, back then it was all like, you know, practical effects. I miss practical effects like crazy.
Yeah.
You know, I wish they'd.
I know they've been really making a big deal about look at all the practical effects, like for Jurassic World and. You know, in Star Wars, it was a big deal.
Yeah, I remember J.J. Abrams, there was a big emphasis on how much they were going back to practical because Lucas filmed every single one of the prequels on a green screen, basically. Like, the entirety of the movie is on a green screen.
Right.
Have you ever seen, like, the videos, the making of videos, and there's just the whole room is green they're acting in? It looks ridiculous.
I've seen, like, stills and whatnot, and, yeah, it's just green.
It's just a giant green
There'll be,
room.
like, you know, like a platform of, like, you know, whatever they're standing on. And, like a prop here and there, and everything else is green.
Everything is green. And then they're all attached to cables and stuff. I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, but, you know, but practical has its place. I mean, and that movie was right around the big CG wave of movies coming through. So, and it looked awesome. And I like, too, that, you know, there was, like, swear words in it a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, like Raphael like screams out "damn" at some point. I just remember thinking like, "Oh my god, I can't believe he's saying that." But he might, you know, they might have spoke like that in the graphic novels, for all I know.
Yeah.
So that was a big deal. And then of course, like they didn't wait long. Oh, factoid on that: that was the highest grossing independent film of all time. Like that movie made buku dollars. And it remained the top grossing independent film of all time until Pulp Fiction knocked it off like some years later. But it was just a huge success. So, you know, like the sequel came out, they like doubled the budget, and then I think with more money, obviously, the more money's involved, the more people get like their opinions are going to be heard and notes are going to be made. Executives are going to make decisions. It's kind of like the cartoon, you know, like, well, we're spending a lot of money on this cartoon. We're going to make all these decisions. So they kind of did that with, there was a noticeable bit of silliness in Secret of the Ooze.
Oh, man. Well, yeah. They're babies.
Babies! They're babies! Oh!
at the time we were like, oh gosh.
Yeah. Okay. So we're moving on to Secret of the Ooze now. Then.
Yeah, we're moving on to Secret of the Ooze.
Well, let me just start with that. Like when we first saw the trailers for that, it was like this huge rush of excitement because in the trailer they tease that there's gonna be 2 like new mutant enemies for the turtles to fight.
Exactly.
And we're like, yes!
Finally, we're
Bebop
getting
and Rocksteady!
Yeah.
No.
Toka and Razor.
Yeah.
And they were kind of cool, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they were kind of cool.
I mean, once you get over the initial disappointment.
But it's just another one of those examples of why when you already have this perfectly good material to work from, do you go and not use it and create your own thing? And anyway,
I think the obvious answer to that would be to make more money on toys. You know, they probably were going to sell all the Bebop and Rocksteady toys they were going to at that point. So I mean, I'm just making
They made a
excuses
new
for them,
line of toys
You're right.
specifically for the movie. So
Yes.
there's like the movie version of the Turtles and whatnot. They could have done the same thing for Bebop.
Yeah, and it's funny too because Playmates they didn't want to make specific action figures for the first movie because they thought it was a little too dark.
Yeah.
But and that's another reason why they lightened it up too is the influence of Playmates. They're like, we'll make toys if you lighten the mood of the movie a bit, lighten the tone. And you'll notice like the Turtles never really use their weapons against anybody. They're always like whipping down coal cuts and like one point Donatello's acting like one of those clown things. It's just it's all slapsticky and silly.
Yeah.
And then the costumes were modified a little bit. They still look nice. And then, of course, you got Vanilla Ice, the Ninja Rap.
The Ninja Rap.
Yeah, which I admittedly still kind of love.
Yeah.
I had that on one of my playlists, and we were waiting at the bus stop, and Logan had heard it in the car, and he was just like, go Ninja, go Ninja, go. I'm like, that still works, really? I had no influence on the kid whatsoever. It's not like I was like, yeah, kid, this is the way it used. This is a jam back in the day. He just it was just a new song to him. He liked it, so
that's cool.
Props to Vanilla Ice, and he is very proud of that, by the way, too. Like he said at one point, like that's one of the most proud moments of his career, like being in that movie and making that song, which is kind of cool.
Yeah,
it's kind of neat, especially for a guy who like struggled with like being a poser. You wouldn't think he would say like, oh yeah, Ninja Turtles, I love it, but he did. Let's see. So Secret of the Ooze was a hit. It was a big hit, not as big as the first one. Since it cost more money, it didn't make as much money as the first. There may or may not be a sequel, and there was. So Ninja Turtles 3 came out, and it was never even on my radar. I didn't even know it existed until home video.
I think I've only seen it the one time.
Yeah. Ironically enough, Eastman and Laird liked that version. They hated the second one. They liked the third one okay, which is really funny because it's goofy too.
Yeah.
But I guess, they go back. Well, they have that scepter, like time travel scepter thing or whatever.
Yeah.
And they actually had continuity too, because like one thing I didn't like about the first and second Turtles movie, like they switched up April O'Neil's, which I hate when they do that in any movie nowadays. But I think that they use the same April in the second and third movie.
I was going to say, isn't April different in every movie? I don't remember.
I think she's the same in the second and the third. And maybe Casey's the same actor as the Casey from the first one, too. Like, I think I've seen it, like, once, too. And it just didn't jive with me at all. I want him to be in New York. I want to be in the sewers. I want him, like, skateboarding in, like, that's how I love my Turtles.
Yeah, I mean, and it's interesting because... I like, the Japanese culture and the samurai and everything, but yeah, I need to watch that movie again just to see what I think now, because I just remember not really caring about it.
Oh, and that Corey Feldman returned as Donatello in the third one, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it had some things going for it, but it's so funny that, and that came out in 93, and by then I was like in high school, and I was more of like into Beavis and Butthead and Ren and Stimpy and stuff at that time.
Right.
So Turtles, it just really wasn't on my radar as much anymore. But it made some money, and if you adjust for inflation, it actually outgrosses that Out of the Shadows movie.
Oh yeah.
Surprisingly, yeah, which I actually liked.
I mean, I enjoyed
It gave us Bebop.
I
and
liked
Rocksteady.
it better than the first Ninja Turtle reboot. Well, actually, I guess it's like the second. I don't know, because there was that CGI movie too.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about the CGI movie, the one that came out in 2007, which I think is actually a really good movie.
Yeah, I like it. It was very different. I mean, there's no Shredder, and kind of expected Shredder, but there's no Shredder.
They got the blessing of Eastman and Laird. They actually came on and were like, I think, producers of some kind. With the one thing that they said that we'll help you if they're in their factoid, their condition was no celebrity casting for the voices.
Oh, that's interesting.
It is interesting, like, because you have Sarah Michelle Gellar was April, Chris Evans was Casey, and then you have Patrick Stewart was the voice of the villain, I guess.
Right.
You'd call him the villain, and Kevin Smith, I think, had a little part in it. So they had celebrities doing voices, but they were like, you can't cast a celebrity as any of the voices of the Turtles, and I thought that those actors did a really good job. And can we talk about the struggle, like the rivalry between Leonardo and Raphael that kind of kicked up in these movies?
You are so smug. You know that? You think the world revolves around you, don't you? That we couldn't possibly survive without the mighty and powerful Leonardo to guide us through our problems, huh? Well, I got a news flash for you. We got along just fine without you.
Oh, and this qualifies as just fine? Dressing up like it's Halloween every night? Risking the safety of our family? I mean, come on, what were you thinking?
That's something that never really existed in the cartoon.
Yeah, it's like a huge thing now that there's always like this. They're always button heads.
Yeah, there's a tension now always between those two.
I'm trying to remember if there was such a thing in the original comics or not, because I kind of want to say there was maybe a little bit, but yeah, definitely not in the 80s cartoon at all.
Well, we've gotten all the way up to this point without really mentioning the personalities of the Turtles. I guess it'd be a good time to talk about their personalities.
You kind of mentioned Michelangelo.
Yeah, Michelangelo.
Well, yeah, you mentioned Michelangelo and Donatello, so Leonardo and Raphael, the only ones really you didn't.
Raphael is the hothead. He's
Right.
kind of the strong, silent type. And then Leonardo is kind of, he's the leader. So, Raphael would be the one to challenge authority. It makes sense that he would butt heads with Leonardo.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I kind of dig that. It makes them like family, more like family. Teenagers are going to fight. Brothers are going to fight. So, but it does get to be kind of an old hand, like they do it so much.
What was it the cartoon in the song say about him? That Raphael is cool, I think.
But rude?
But yeah, cool but rude.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because like everybody else, it's like
Donatello does machines.
Leonardo leads, Donatello does machines.
Michelangelo's a party dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he always had a bit of a edge to him in the cartoons, but everybody was a bit soft too, like.
He definitely, like in the first live action movie, he was definitely the hothead and kind of stormed off by himself, because he and Casey always kind of got along because of that.
Yeah,
and that was in the comics, I think. That was in the original comics.
Cool. I loved Casey in the movie too, the '90 movie. I thought that actor was really good.
Yeah.
And I was actually surprised to learn that Chris Evans was the voice of Casey Jones. And when I was like researching stuff, like I didn't realize that Chris Evans.
Yeah, when you said it just now, I didn't know.
Yeah,
that. I knew about Sarah Michelle Gellar.
I can hear it now because it plays a lot on cable. I hear it quite a bit. Or I see it on TV quite a bit recently.
Yeah.
But I really dug that movie. That was pretty good. I thought the story was cool. I thought it looked real good. And it kind of like sort of vaguely ties into the original 3 movies in a bit.
Yeah, like at the end of it, there's that time scepter that you were talking about from Ninja Turtles 3, and Shredder's, I think, helmet is up on a shelf. Right. So it's in that same timeline as the first 3 live action movies. Yeah. So yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, so it was a very fan friendly, I think, film. And I enjoyed it quite a bit, actually. I wasn't expecting to like it, but I liked it. So I want to say right around that time now that there was a second animated run. So the first one went from 87 to 96, like I said. Then there was that one season of the live action thing that you were
The Next Mutation.
Next Mutation. That ran for just one season. And then I want to say, let's see. Well, there was.
So when was like the reboot?
2003 was when Fox came back again with another series.
So that was the lull, was between like 97 and 2003.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Because I knew there was a little bit of a lull, and then it was like, oh, Ninja Turtles are coming back.
I never watched that second iteration either, though. Like, I probably checked it out of curiosity a handful of times because they were. It was that big. Like He-Man, I remember like they rebooted He-Man.
They did, yeah.
Around that time, they were rebooting a lot of our childhood, like beloved series. So naturally, Turtles would be in the mix, and it went for a whole 156 episodes.
I did not see all of them, but I was pretty good about watching like the first I don't know how many, but yeah, I was. And it's during that time too, where everybody didn't have like a DVR or whatever, and
so from 2003 to 2009,
you had there's no Netflix, so you had to like run down at that time and turn on the TV and watch.
Even like YouTube, like you couldn't get whole like seasons of shows like easily like you can on YouTube.
Yeah, and so I remember like making a point to like, oh, it's time for the new Ninja Turtles, and so I'd go and try to watch that.
So how closely did they follow that formula of the original cartoon then? Since you've watched it clearly more times than I have.
It was more of a mesh of the original comics and the cartoons. Like Baxter Stockman, for instance. Like the whole thing with April and Baxter Stockman was very much like the comics. That April worked for Baxter and wasn't like a news reporter like she was in
let's talk about that. April she went from like an antiques collector in the original comics, right?
Well, I mean she was smart like Donatello, because she worked in Baxter Stockman's lab. But
she was a lab technician.
Yeah, and then like after the whole thing with the Mousers went down, then she started living/working at her like mom and dad's like old consignment shop or whatever, like an antique shop or whatever, and that's where that came from.
Gotcha. Well, because she became like an antiques dealer in that 2007 CG movie, so like she kind of stepped out. Like she went from that to the news reporter, and the reason that they made her a news reporter, one of the writers made this clear. Of the original run of the cartoon said, well, yeah, we made her a news reporter because that gave the Turtles access to like what was going down,
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so like nowadays they would have access to the internet or whatever, they wouldn't need that type of connection, but April was very necessary to be a news reporter for that reason. Like she was like their connection to information, basically.
But and they also. Baxter Stockman was very much more like he originally was, a black man.
Yeah, right. He was
crazy white guy.
Yeah. And they got Tyler Perry to play him in the reboot or whatever.
Yeah.
Which, he didn't bother me all that much. He's kind of goofy and silly. And I don't know like how much he's like that in the comics. Like I get the feeling he wasn't very silly in the comics.
I have no idea like where the fly mutation came from. That wasn't in the comics at all.
They got mutation happy, didn't they?
Yeah.
I guess to sell the toys. I don't know. Like there never was like a human version of Baxter though that they sold. Was there?
No, not in the.
I would have bought it.
Toys.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Well, he was only human for like that couple episodes, right?
Yeah, just like that week-long kind of introduction pilot kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay, so and one thing about that second long run series was that I found interesting was it got to go out on its own terms. Like there was an end, a conclusion to the series. Like I don't think any of the other series had like a conclusion. Like a lot of shows, especially cartoons, just sort of end.
Yeah, I didn't know it had a conclusion.
Yeah, there was a movie, a full-length movie that they released where I think there was even a crossover between like the old Turtles.
Oh, you're talking about the rebooted cartoon.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah, that one I did know had a conclusion.
But yeah, that one had a conclusion, and it's a very interesting concept too. Where
I haven't really seen the whole thing of that, but I did catch like bits and pieces of it, and it was pretty cool having like the different like black and white Turtles from the comics.
Yeah, the graphic novel
the
style.
80s Turtles, and it had Bebop and Rocksteady from the 80s cartoon.
And I didn't know that was at the time when that was going on. If I had known they were doing that, I would have looked for it.
Yeah,
I want to go back and look for that. I've seen YouTube clips of it, and it looks cool.
Yeah, that's something else I'd like to be able to kind of look up and watch that.
Yeah,
all the way through.
So it just feels to me like they were really like catering to the old school fans. Like they were trying to give everybody a little something.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so that ran for a while, and then by the time that ended, Nickelodeon I think bought them, and that's when they got involved with like Michael Bay, and they brought it back for like a third time. Well, for starters, there's the cartoon, the computer generated style cartoon.
You know, and when I first saw that, you know, because every time they reboot it, it's a different style.
Yeah.
And when I first saw it, I didn't think I liked it, but it's grown on me, and
I like it a lot.
I really like it. Yeah.
I really enjoy the writing. I think there's good stories. You know, with like you said, so many different changes in animation style. It's like the DuckTales cartoon.
And
like you gotta adjust to it a little bit.
This one, you know, even differentiated the Turtles even more so than any of the others have. Because the others, like, you know, they'd have the different color bandanas. They'd also have kind of different colored green skin tones.
Mm-hmm.
But this one, they were all basically still the exact same height and looked exactly the same otherwise.
Right.
But this, they even all are like different height. They look different.
Yeah.
You know, Michelangelo, he looks younger. He's got like the freckles,
yeah,
you know, and it's just kind of
totally.
cuter looking.
Right. And he's supposed to be the youngest one, so
yeah. And Raphael's got like that crack like in his shell because he's always getting, you know, kicked around. And,
yeah.
You know, he's always getting in a fight and stuff.
I think it's pretty good. I've seen probably the most of all the non-original cartoons. It's the one I've seen the most of.
Yeah.
And it's still going now. I like it too that the voice of, or is it the old voice of Raphael is now the voice of Donatello from the cartoons?
Oh,
the voice actor, I mean.
Yes.
Or is it the old Donatello is now Raphael? I think it's the.
Oh no, yeah, I think Donatello is Raphael. I forget.
Yeah, but so there's that kind of connection in that thread, and he sounds great. He sounds just exactly the same, but he's playing a different character.
Right,
and he's got that sound to him.
You know, one thing that I thought was really strange, and I never really understood, is just how young April looked in the CG cartoon, the Nickelodeon cartoon.
Yeah, she does look pretty young.
I guess though, I keep thinking like, well, I mean, the Turtles are teenagers, and I guess, you know, she's a teenager, and then I don't know.
Well, she was so much more of an adult. Like, well, it's just what happens when you get a little older too. Like, you see like teenagers as younger looking, but they also made those characters adult characters when we were kids.
But yeah, I mean, April always was an adult. Like, even in the comics, she worked for Baxter Stockman. She was an adult. In the cartoon, she was a news reporter. She was an adult.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. So when having that kid version of April, it was kind of jarring.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, it's cool.
So they have that, and then, you know, they weren't going to settle on just that. You know, they rebooted the toy line. There's like a whole new line of toys. I guess Playmates still does.
Oh, yeah, I'm not sure what the company is that does them. I don't know.
They look cool. I mean, they look just like representations of the cartoon that's out now. You know, I like the way they look. But they also made the movies. So it's not a Michael Bay directed movie, but he's a producer on the movie. So like they have that feel. So you know what they do to the Transformers movies. You have that concern.
Yeah, and I do not like the looks of the Bay Ninja Turtle movies.
They are weird looking.
The lips and just they're giant. They're huge. I mean, the turtles are supposed to be like 5 foot tall or something.
Yeah, and they look like they rolling around in a junkyard or something too. Like they have all this like little, like not jewelry, but they're wearing all this crap around their necks.
Yeah.
And, like it's such a departure from the things we loved.
MC Mikey. MC
It's just I don't like it. I don't like it. But I remember seeing it and like thinking it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I was totally prepared for it to be a bad movie. And of course they get Megan Fox came in to be April O'Neil, completely totally hot. And like you were really kind of laughing about how like they went to great lengths to show her sides. Her whatever, she's like hanging out of a window.
Oh yeah, like in the first movie where
and like Vern's like that's
her
it.
Butt.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's just like so like he's getting a full on look, and we are treated to the same point of view.
In the second movie, you get the nice little like schoolgirl or uniform.
Oh yeah, so dumb. Like she's like interviewing Baxter. She's not interviewing. She's trying to get like codes or something from his electronic device.
Yeah.
And then there's like all these like little pieces of a schoolgirl uniform like here and there. So she's like walking away. She's like stripping away her regular clothes to
grabs
put on.
a skirt. And...
Yeah. Oh my god. I mean, part of me is like, I like this, but the other part of me is like, I should be hating this.
Right.
This is so stupid.
Come on.
Yeah, come on, man. Yeah, I'm such a male. Like I should like whatever. I know you know what I'm talking about.
I do. It's like, all right.
And she wasn't
it's
like
hot, but come on.
It's hot, but it doesn't have a place here, man. It just doesn't belong. Like Michael Bay was for sure like standing off camera, going like 2 thumbs up.
Right.
Yeah, that's my boy. Whoever it is that directed those movies, I mean, he's for sure a Michael Bay, understudy.
And did not like the way Shredder looked.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Casey. I thought you were going to go right into the Casey, how he's like a cop.
Oh, how he's a cop. Oh my god, I forgot about that.
Yeah, he's a cop trying to be like this hotshot detective. He wants to make detective. That's the thing. It's like
Bebop and Rocksteady were the only things really I liked about that movie.
I loved Bebop and Rocksteady. They were perfectly goofy.
And Krang was okay.
I didn't like Brad Garrett's voice as Krang.
Yeah, that was a little distracting.
Yeah. I want to say they were going with an actor who was going to try and be more like the cartoon, which would have fit the... Because let's go back to the first movie. The first movie, there were things that people liked about it, but there were things that weren't great either. The second movie, I started hearing about all this stuff they were going to do. Like, there's going to be the Technodrome. There's going to be Bebop and Rocksteady. There's going to be Casey, and so they're like, we're going to make it a lot like the cartoon. Like, I kept hearing stuff like that. It got me really excited.
Right.
And then you see, of course, the trailer, and Bebop and Rocksteady are on full display, and they look pretty cool.
Yeah, they were well done.
But the guy, and another thing too, was the actor who was Casey is the actor who portrays the main. He's like in that show Arrow. I want to say he's like the main character, like the protagonist in the show Arrow, that DC comic.
Yeah,
I don't watch it, but I think that's him. So I'm like, okay, well, clearly this guy's got some martial arts skills or whatever. But he's just this whiny cop who, who straps on skates at one point.
It didn't make any sense.
It didn't make any sense, man. They really messed that up. The Bebop and Rocksteady elements were cool. You're right. Shredder didn't work for me on either one. The Shredder costume with the metal.
I mean, he was like a robot or something. I don't know.
Yeah. That was one thing when I saw the first trailer for the remake, the first one that was coming out. We'd see those images of Shredder and how many knives and stuff were on him. He looked like Super Shredder kind of.
Yeah, I like the simplicity of that classic Shredder costume, like from the first comic.
Yeah, for sure. Anyway, so like as much money as the first remake, Michael Bay remake made, the second one was a pretty big flop. So they'll probably not make a third movie in that trilogy, and they'll sit on the property. It'll never go away. It's like a Batman franchise. Like it's just too profitable. They'll do something. They'll do it until they stop making a lot of money, and then they'll sit on it for a year, and then they'll retool, and then they'll come out with something else. And it'd be nice if they could just keep, like, Michael Bay just needs to be like shipped away. You know, like I don't want to hear him making any more Transformers. Yeah. I think he's a producer on that Bumblebee movie. Like, I keep hearing about this Bumblebee movie, and I'm kind of like optimistic.
I'll watch it, but I'm not optimistic. I'm not anything about it. I'll watch it.
Set in the 80s. Yeah. He is a bug.
We'll see.
John Cena is the main character, which I think he can be funny. I don't think he's a leading man in any way, shape, or form. You know, so like I'm kind of concerned, but I would like it if they just misdirected Michael Bay. Like if they like told him they were filming the movie on a certain schedule and then make it. And then, you know, like he shows up when they say, and they're like, oh, we already wrapped.
Oh,
like,
sorry.
Yeah, sorry, man. And he was like, oh, but I got to have hot girls and stuff and goofball
explosions.
And oh my God, explosions. But the guy who directed Kubo and the Two Strings, like the director is promising. So, you know, I have
like Kubo.
Oh yeah, it's a great movie. So I have hope. So we'll see. And, you know, maybe they'll get that franchise in the hands of some other creative types with Turtles and then give them another shot, which I suspect they will. So that kind of covers the movies. There was the games, of course, were a lot of fun. The arcades were fantastic.
I never did play the one game that was like the same people that made that Transformers game.
Oh, the Platinum guys?
Yeah.
It's bad. You never played it? I thought you tried it.
Well, you and I tried to play, online.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you were at
it was
your
so
house
broken
and I'm
we
at my
couldn't even
house.
get connected.
And we couldn't ever get connected. And so then I never even tried. I guess I was waiting to play with you, and that never happened. And so then I just never played it.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Logan got too impatient. Like I was trying to like wait to play, and we tried at that time, and it didn't work out. And he was just like, I want to play. But I think like watching him play it and get frustrated with it, like totally zapped my enthusiasm to play it.
Yeah.
And I ended up, I think, selling it. It's total garbage.
Is it?
It kind of looks
the
cool.
The Transformer game was pretty cool.
Devastation's fun.
I never did beat it.
Me neither, but it's what you
fun.
wanted.
Yeah.
It had all those visuals from the G1 era. You could play as a lot of the characters. Like, all the models looked really good.
Now, I will admit, though, we're not talking about Transformers.
I know.
But
we're allowed.
Yeah. Let's get sidetracked a little bit.
We do that.
That very early on, like, the first board, you fight Devastator, and I do remember getting real frustrated with that because I couldn't beat him. And then finally I figured out, like, kind of a pattern to like do combos, and then you kind of back away, do the combo again, and started doing that combo, and okay, now I beat him. But I remember getting super, super frustrated with that, and I don't know, maybe Ninja Turtles is like that.
It's a lot of like go here, go there. You know, like there's waypoints, and it'll make you go to different like checkpoints of the city.
Well, Transformers did that too.
But I guess it was a little more fun too, so you don't mind so much that you're backtracking and doing a lot of that.
I do, like in the Transformers, I remember kind of getting kind of bored. Like, now go here. Like, okay.
Yeah, well, just imagine that, but like the game, it's not any fun.
Okay.
You know, so like, yeah, it's repetitive, but you're along for the ride because you don't know who you might get to play as Optimus Prime or Bumblebee, or you don't know what kind of, you know, like, or you get to play as Grimlock even. Like, you don't know what kind of wrinkle they're going to continue to throw into it, make it a little fresh. Like, you really don't do that in the Turtles movie.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It's no fun. But there were some good Turtles games that came out. You know, there were the 2 arcade games that were really phenomenal. There was the...
We've spoken on the Ninja Turtle arcade games many times.
Yeah. The NES game, very hard. You know, we've spoken about it. The arcade that came out that was like a port of the first arcade. Very good quality game.
And there was that third Ninja Turtle game on NES. Didn't really ever play that a
Project
whole lot.
Manhattan?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I never played it either, but it looked good.
Yeah, it looks decent enough. Have to play that on the.
And then a whole bunch of
Retro Pi
garbage,
or
and like there were like your portable games that were no good.
What, like Fall of the Foot Clan? You all like argued with me how good that was.
Well, that episode hasn't aired. That's another one of our like backlog episodes that got screwed up. You're right, Nick. Okay, bit of a spoiler.
You and Martin love it.
Because it looked so cool, and it was as good as it needed to be for me to keep playing it. Because I'm playing Turtles on Game Boy.
And I liked it. But
yeah.
I just
was it a masterpiece? No. Was it like, mechanically, not so good?
I just
Maybe.
felt like the animation was very stiff. It was like
it was
like a Tiger LCD game, and you all were like,
see, now I think that's where you draw you take that back, man, because that is the ultimate insult for any game. Those Tiger LCD games are garbage.
Man, come on, they had a place.
Only in the fact that you owned you owned a video game that said Double Dragon, or whatever type game that you.
Oh, I thought you were talking about me personally. I'm like, I didn't own one.
No. It was just fun to own a video game.
But because they would have like the popular games like Double Dragon,
right?
So you're like, oh man,
and you could own it for like $20 or whatever they were.
Yeah.
They were not expensive because they weren't good. But those Nintendo Game & Watch games were pretty fun, and they were kind of similar technology.
So I guess that's Tiger is the bad word, I guess.
Yeah, Tiger's your what's the Pelican? They're the Pelican of the handheld.
I guess so. I never bought any of the Tiger games, so maybe that tells it all right there. But
I had one, and and it was bad too because they would have like all the there would be like a non-lit like graphic here where like if you punched high and then like a graphic here and a graphic there, and depending on which button you did is like which one would light up or whatever. But they didn't never seem to fully fade away, so like they're kind of like still stuck on the screen a bit.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Made it really ugly and like.
Well, I guess what I was trying to say with that animation is not so much like Tiger, like it's just those LCD games.
Okay.
So
if you had said Game and Watch, I might not have gotten my dander up so high.
Yeah, that's all I was saying. It's like Game and Watch, like the LCD games. So
right.
I didn't realize Tiger was a bad word.
You might as well have said something about my sister at that point. Like what? You take it back. But it's stiff for sure. But it looked good on the Game Boy. It got me interested in a Game Boy.
I liked it.
But they weren't great games by any stretch of the imagination. But you were playing the Turtles, so that's all that mattered.
Yeah.
So like there was everything, lunchboxes, the whole nine. Turtle pop. It was just like a phenomenon, pop culture wise.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of brings us up to present day. Turtles, like we said at the top, I kind of got you interested in it. I had all the toys. I had like the turtle van, the blimp.
Yeah, you had like a big duffel bag.
Yeah, I still got that duffel bag.
Full of turtles.
Yeah, it was like this big old duffel bag with Leonardo on it, and I still have it. It's where
I didn't even realize it was a Ninja Turtle duffel bag.
It was. Yeah, it had Leonardo on it. It was officially licensed, and that's how I stored my turtles for a long time. In fact, you were commenting on the condition of my turtles, like they had been stored in a hot area because their joints were completely fused in position. Their skin was kind of melty looking,
and that's nothing against you because I've got stuff the same way.
Yeah. No, I know you weren't criticizing my care of them because when you're an adult, you move, the things move with you.
Yeah, and you end up finding it in a box and you pull it out and it's like, oh man.
Yeah, it literally went from a storage container at my mom's house for 10 years to a box that went directly into a dormer in the attic of my next home where it lived for the next 5 years, or 10 years, whatever. And then it came directly from that box to another box that lived in the basement of my current house for like 3, 4, 5 years, and then like I finally like pulled the little guy. Like it felt, Laura's so funny. She was like, I wonder if they feel like it's Toy Story. They're like, Ron loves us again. He's playing with us. So like I got them all out, and they're on display on my bookshelves now. So it's the first time they've seen each other in 30. It's like a reunion. These guys are like, you know, up all night for the last couple of weeks, just getting to know each other. You know, so it's fun. And I've never had like I've had rooms in houses that were like my own, but it was never anything that like I thought to do like you had done. You know, you make a museum out of it, display proudly your old stuff. And I'd like to continue to, you know, maybe pick up some things along the way, from whatever it may be, like conventions or whatever, and like add to the collection. But I mean, not everything that I have on these shelves are from when I was a kid.
Right.
But they're from that same toy line or whatever. Is there anything else we can talk about Ninja Turtles? I mean, Cowabunga, party on, dude. The Cowabunga, that was apparently something that the writers were required to like work into the scripts like so many times. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it was such a popular word, you know, like in that late 80s, especially in the 80s, that kind of valley talk was big. Yeah. So, and you know, Michelangelo wasn't the first person to say Cowabunga but he surely made it the most popular. Like he popularized it, I think.
Right.
I think there's an old like, and it may be the writer that got his inspiration from a Peanuts cartoon. I think Snoopy or something at one point said Cowabunga in one of his strips. And he thought it was cool and like wrote it in, and like kids really responded to it, so they kept putting it in like every episode. Also, you know, like now I'm just thinking of little things like as we're wrapping up the show. Do you remember the point in the original cartoon series where he stopped using nunchucks and started using like a grapple hook? It was like,
I don't remember that he stopped. I know like every once in a while he'd pull out a grappling hook, but I didn't realize he stopped using nunchucks.
Yeah, apparently nunchucks were a big no-no in a lot of regions. In fact, even in Europe or England, I think they were just like the Teenage Mutant Ninja or Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles. Yeah, like it was the whole ninja thing, and specifically the nunchucks. I guess there were some like nunchuck related accidents with kids going on, because I mean they're awesome. You know, Bruce Lee made them seem really cool back in the day, and it seems like the one weapon that, I mean, like you're not going to get your hands on a katana probably. Anybody could take like a bow, like get like a stick out in the backyard. And I remember like as a kid,
size? I mean,
what? Well, not that size, but you could pretend. Or get a broomstick and you got a bow suddenly. You're Donatello.
Right.
Like I don't know what you use for Raphael. Like,
I don't understand why nunchucks are bad, but size are okay.
I don't know. I guess it's just because people weren't reproducing size and selling them to kids as much as they were nunchucks.
I tried to make nunchucks.
Well, we all wanted nunchucks.
I would get like 2 sticks and some rope, and I'd wrap some duct tape around it.
You know? Absolutely, dude. And you know, I could see how like some kids would get knocked out, but there was a point in this, like around, I think I read season 3 or so, or 4, Mikey stopped using nunchucks. Like he would have them on his belt or whatever, but when he would need to use a weapon, he'd pull out that lasso thing, and that became his weapon.
Yeah, I guess I have seen that, but I guess I never really thought, hey, he's never using his nunchucks anymore.
Well, another thing is when you're watching him in Syndication,
all he did was really swing them around anyway.
Yeah. He never used them. Like they never used their weapons against their enemies because that would kill them. Well, they did actually use them against like the robots, I guess, especially the first 5-part series. Remember that scene where they're in the Technodrome and all those robots come to life? They had to write that scene in just like because they had to destroy robots. They couldn't fight people.
Right.
So that whole scene just kind of came about so they could use their weapons and they could have a cool action scene. But they just made up all these goofball like robots to fight against.
Mm-hmm.
So and that's just all from like being a kid show and making sure that groups don't come down on them, try and sue them, like say that their kids did this or that. Because kids can be dumb. adults can be dumb. You know. But anyways, it was just like one of those like random things that popped into my head because I always hated that thing. Like, where's the nunchucks? Why are you pulling that goofy thing out? I can't think of anything else. I guess that's just a good place to stop. Yeah. Ninja Turtles. I mean, right there they're a seminal part of my childhood. You know, like they're right up there with Transformers for me. You know, like whereas, you know, Ghostbusters. I would imagine like if I were to rank my toys and like properties and things like that, if there was a top 3, it would be like Turtles, Transformers, and I don't know, maybe like G.I. Joe. They'd be in that top 3.
Yeah, I've got the Transformers, Ghostbusters, and Turtles, I guess.
Turtles would be in there for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So and Star Wars. I mean, Star Wars toys is huge.
Oh, well, that's true. We'll have to do like a ranking, like one of our definitive ranking episodes of Martin, and like do those toy lines or whatever.
Yeah.
It'd be really fun and interesting to see how we would personally rank all the toy lines. You know, Transformers, I have a feeling is probably going to be, based on the way we rank our stuff, like you're going to be right at number 1 for both of us, so it's going to be number 1 probably, unless Martin puts it at like 10 or 15 or something. Right. Out of spite.
Bringing us down.
You wouldn't let me have Joust? No Transformers for you. All right, well, thanks for tuning in to us. If you like the video, please give us a thumbs up. If you want to leave a comment, let us know if, you know, what your favorite memories of Turtles were. If we left something out about Turtles that you can, you know, like we did a tribute to Turtles but didn't mention this. If you have some interesting factoid, make sure to drop it down in the comments below.
Yeah, like we didn't mention Usagi Yojimbo at all.
Yeah, well, there were like spin-offs and stuff, right? Yeah. Usagi Yojimbo is kind of a big deal. Well, the whole reason I even thought to do a tribute show to begin with was there was that timely news of the Injustice game for PlayStation and Xbox, the fighting game.
Oh, yeah.
We were, you had told me that they were one of the DLC. Is it free DLC or like you have to pay for it?
Oh, I'm quite sure you'd have to pay for it.
Okay.
But
well, anyways, they're including a couple other characters for the Injustice game, and then but the 4 1990 style turtle, like that movie style.
Yeah, and I guess it's like one character that somehow like doing the moves that you kind of switch between turtles, or they do like team attacks or something. But it's like all 4 turtles is like one character basically.
Oh, okay. So they sort of jump in and help like X-Men games or whatever.
I'm not exactly sure how it'll work, but that's kind of my understanding.
Oh, that shucks. I was kind of hoping that they would have 4 individual playable characters.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, well,
we'll see.
I bought that game. It was only like $15 from Black Friday.
Oh yeah.
So I picked it up for $15.
I haven't got it yet, but because of that, I'm gonna get it.
Yeah, it's dirt cheap nowadays. So even if there is DLC and it's like $5 or something, I'll get it just for that.
Yeah, so Injustice 2, I'm definitely getting that now.
You
just
shot
because of Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, right. And they look cool. They look just like from the movies, the old movies. So like I was like, you know what we ought to do? We should do a turtle tribute. You know, it's time.
Yeah. So that's what even like popped it in your head.
Yep, that's exactly why it popped in my head. So I like to try and make it current in some way, shape, or form. Is that DLC even available right now?
No, not yet. I'm not exactly sure when, but
cool.
I'll have the game when it does come.
Cool. All right. Well, that's been our tribute to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I've been your host, Ron Avis.
And I'm Nick Wright.
We'll see you next week.
See ya.